Hello, hello, hello. Just sending out the message in my Discord, which I obviously forgot to prepare. There we are. Psychedelic Underground, Greedo and Klaus, welcome, welcome. Tomek, I don't know if you're still here. Mylogify, I don't know if you're still here. Those messages were a little bit older. Sucker of the Year. Anyway, everybody, welcome. Obviously, it's going to be a feedback stream today, so we're going to be listening to your tracks. I have everything prepared and set up. Let me just open these up. Perfect, there we go. I'll make this one a bit bigger, so that it's looking a bit nicer here. There we are. Mindbee, HD, how are you doing? Tomek, welcome as well. Power to the disciple, I agree. It looks strange written like that, but I do agree. Yeah, we're gonna be doing feedback. I think there's already a few tracks in here. We have one that was posted yesterday, and a few that were posted today. I'm going to start with this one. I don't know if you're in chat, Poons. I don't know why you decided to post it here and not in the normal feedback. At least I don't think it's in the normal feedback. So I assume that he does really want me to listen to it here. So that's what I'll be doing. Post for a while. I know some problems of the track. Kick and bass alignment isn't perfect. Always these excuses. Okay. I was reading the message, and there's, you know, it's the message that you always hear, like, okay, I did a little bit of mixing, I've clipped it and limited, I have mastered it, but it's not really finished. I'm not going to complain here and immediately start sitting here, but it's always, I find that people submit their track for feedback, and then they'll go like, oh, but I didn't finish this, and I didn't finish this, and I didn't finish that, and that, and that. See here, try the master. It's not one person doing this. It's everybody. Everybody comes in here with feedback, and then they immediately start giving excuses for the reasons why some things aren't finished, right? If you know it's not finished, then just finish it. Like kick and bass alignment takes like, what, 2 minutes? Just do your kick and bass alignment and then finish it. That's if you know that some people don't know, and then it's okay. But if you know that you're going to be submitting a track, and you know that phase alignment is something that I value and that I always point out, or at least cleanliness of kick and bass, then just fix that. It literally takes 2 minutes. Anyway, I don't want to ramble on that. So this is Poons with Tangy Expressions. It's 181 BPM, so this is going to be fun stuff, hopefully. Last but not least, thank you. Very strange bass line here at the start. It's kind of like a sine wave coming in and out. Cool little melody thing there. Your brain is going to explode again in a good way. That was very clipped, that one note there. That was my volume. Nice. cleanliness will check when the actual drop happens. I can already tell that it's not cleaned up, but I'll show it later actually. It's very loud, this sound. Yeah. Kick and bass is not clean. The alignment, I mean, you cannot really tell, but you can just check the waveform, right? This kick waveform is being completely destroyed by what's happening in the bass. Also, kick and bass is not loud enough. For me at least. I think something like a kick here should really have a punch. It's not having punch because of the cleanliness, but also just it's not loud enough. It's just way too loud. Stuff that's happening here. Cam frozen in a perfect way as well. No webcam apparently. No cam today. I'll try if I can fix that later in the break. I'll focus on the feedback for now. Yeah, the mixing wise, it doesn't really make sense to me. The kick and bass just doesn't come through, right? And also, hello sucker of the year, welcome. It's... wait. Webcam just doesn't work now. Also, he said, flow and feeling is my main goal. When it comes to flow, there's nothing happening. Right? There's no risers, downlifters. There's no point where some change is being announced. It's just, okay, the kick and bass is happening and the stuff is happening and then it just stops. There are fills in here, but the fills, you're not building up to the fill with your track. Right, that's a fill and then we have a transition, but there was nothing that was indicated in the music that that fill and transition was going to happen. Here we can see the cleanliness of the kick and bass. Look at this mess, look at this transient here. You can hear it, this is so messed up, this transient, that you can actually hear its lack of punch in the kick. Because it's getting pushed away. This is what happens when your unclean kick and bass is going into a mastering chain. It's being, that transient is being pushed against by the part of the bass that's still there. Here again, the fill doesn't anticipate what's going to come. It just kind of stops and then new stuff happens. When it comes to mixing, you have to be aware of your priorities here. This is what happened here is that you just didn't worry about, okay, which element is the most important element, right? Kick and bass. So the kick and bass needs to be the loudest. The kick and bass needs to stand out. That's what we dance to. I do like the use of stereo here on this sound. The rest of the sounds don't really have a stereo consideration. Back to the levels though. The second thing is going to be like your main lead elements, which this track doesn't have. This track just stuff happens, and you have to figure it out on the fly what's happening while you're listening to it. The track doesn't tell you what to listen to. Wait, are you doubling the kicks without removing the bass line? Or that was a BPM change. It might have been a BPM change. In which case, good luck cleaning up your kick and bass. It's a cool idea. The sound design is cool. It's always the same thing with these kind of tracks. It's a cool idea and the sound design is cool. You just need to work on actually learning how to mix and actually learning how to clean up and finish a track, right? Because all of the ideas are there. You just have to listen through it and say, okay, does the flow actually work? Do all of the elements actually create one cohesive thing? Or did I just place in cool elements that I found very cool and just said like, okay, I'll throw in the elements and see what happens to the track, right? It feels like what you set out to do with this track wasn't so much to write a piece of music, but to show off your sound design skill. And I see a lot of 5 a.m. people would dance their butt off. Yes, for the idea, again, the ideas in this track are really cool and the sound design is really good. You definitely know your stuff. You just haven't applied that to actually writing music. You just kind of went like, okay, for 7 minutes I want to show off my sound design. That's what it feels like. Because there's no consideration to mixing in this track. And there's no consideration to track flow, right? How does the track, even though you say flow and I don't remember what you said. Flow and feeling is my main goal. There aren't really any risers. There aren't really any parts of the track where the energy level is noticeably going up. I post the track and the feedback on stream page, but it's not Psytrance, it's Techno. No worries. I will listen to anything. As long as it's not copyrighted material. Also, Benjamin, welcome to the stream. So there's no flow in it, right? Usually, when you're trying to raise the energy level, or let's start here. The track normally starts very slow in Psytrance. You then go into the pre-drop or from the intro to the pre-drop or wherever you're going, and then you get your first drop, right? And then the first drop is never the most intense part, because from a music standpoint, what we would want is we want to reach a climax, right? We want to increase the energy over time so that it constantly feels like the track is getting better and better and better, more sequences, more stuff happening. So you start off with a bunch of one-shots, and then you'll slowly, over the course of like 3-4 sections of the drop, raise the energy level. The way that you do that is not by just, okay, I'm going to pop in my leads, and I'm going to pop in a riser, and that's going to go to the next level, right? What you'll do is you combine kind of the modulation and the idea of the main leads and all of the supporting leads to rise to a certain point. That's where your fill is, and then you, in that fill, either maintain the energy level if you want to maintain it into the next section, increase it if you want to go to a higher energy section, or you decrease it if you want to go to a lower energy section. So the first step here to fix this track, if you want to improve this track, or for your next track, writing your next track, is to determine throughout the track what is the energy level going to do, right? Then you're going to do all of your sound design, all of the stuff that you've done right now, and after that, there needs to be another process where you go through the track and you check if everything that you're doing in the track matches up with the energy level that you set out to achieve within the track. An energy level is a very hard thing to explain. I am explaining it in the series that I'm doing on it, Tension and Transition for Psytrance. But it's really hard to describe. But yeah, and then obviously the mixing part, and cleaning your kick and bass, but that's a whole other story. From a musical writing perspective, what is lacking here is that second phase of music writing where you adapt to the energy level that you're setting out to get. Let me try this for camera. There is indeed a bit longer, but it might just crash now. Sonic Flux, welcome. Davey, HD, I think I already said hi. Yeah, camera's broken. I don't know why. It works, but now it's broken again. It's not there's not going to be a camera today. I have no idea why this is happening. It's annoying because I do like having my camera up there. I think it adds a little bit of personality to your stream. But we'll worry about that another time. I'll worry about that after the stream in XDC. Why not try the Nikon? Because the Nikon only works for 30 minutes. I do have the new camera. We can try the Nikon. This is the Nikon. This is quality stuff, right? If I focus properly. This is what I look like on the Nikon. The only problem is this is going to work for 30 minutes and then it's going to stop because I have not yet changed the firmware. Audio echo. Yes, camera audio was on here. My voice became a little bit extra psychedelic there. Yeah. This is going to stop working in a little bit. I cannot guarantee how long this is going to work. 30 minutes is the maximum, but it sometimes just stops earlier because it overheats, right? Because it's so hot in my apartment always, I'm not entirely certain if I can update the firmware, or not update the firmware, but there's a firmware hack available. And that allows me to set the limit from 30 minutes to 6 hours, which would basically be enough for any stream that I do. The only problem with that is obviously there's overheat protection for a reason, right? It's if I turn that overheat protection off, I'm scared that it's going to overheat. It says it's safe, yeah, but I'm the one that paid $400 for a camera here. So I don't want it to. If it breaks, then I'm out of a job. Right? Because I don't want to go back to having the webcam quality that I have before in my videos. It may say that it's safe on the internet, but I'm the one that paid for the camera. That's my problem. I'm hesitant because I depend on this camera for making videos, and that's eventually my income. I can use a little fan or something. I would need to like maybe open it up or look at it, but it's something that I would need to have the time for to actually look into. And obviously, if I have the new apartment, I got a contract for the new apartment. Everything has been arranged. I just need to sign it, which I'll do tomorrow. The new apartment has air conditioning, so that's nice. And there, it would be less of a problem because then obviously just the room temperature would be lower. I've told this many times. The room that I'm in now, where I'm recording and streaming this, gets really, really hot. It gets like 35 degrees in here. Basically outside temperature. Anyway, let's move on to the next track. We have Seal, PU Records. Is that the guy from the chat before? Psychedelic Underground. Yes. Oh, this is a download. That's annoying, the downloads. I'd much rather just have a SoundCloud link. I know it's higher quality, the WAV file, than a SoundCloud link. But it's much harder to actually play it. Even though this one is pretty quick. I shouldn't have shown that. It's okay. I'll cut it out with the YouTube editor after the stream that little bit. This is, this is Energize 180 BPM. I'll put it on full volume there. And this is by Psychedelic Underground Records. Or, what's the artist name? Sil. So I updated the track with baseline cleaning, try the master, can't wait to see. Let's see. Yeah, you can have fades to make sure that it goes to 0 earlier. Basically, I wanted to see this line go to 0 before the kick transient happens. Yours only does 15 minutes. Yeah, mine is, I'm running it on the capture card. So that's why I can use it as a webcam and that's how I record. But that does mean that it can only do 30 minutes at a time. Short Zada, how are you doing? Welcome. Sounds really nice. When it comes to a master, it's not loud enough. What did you master to? Like which LUFS level? Because I can definitely see that this can use a lot more compression, right? You can see, for example, the impact that the snare has on the loudness of the kick. Right, this kick is louder because it's summed together with the snare, especially the transient. This is not so much a problem. I like this. This sounds cool. But you can just push this into a limiter. Am I receiving tracks for feedback? Yes. Exclamation point feedback should tell you everything. Here the kick and bass isn't cleaned. This isn't clean, as you can see the trend. It's a very good production. The instruments that are in here are unique and cool. You just specifically ask for where can you send it. Again, exclamation point feedback will tell you everything you need to know. Even this sound design is really quite unique actually. Partially because it's not greedy on the grid. I don't know if this is the solution to cleaning kick and bass. Just having the North so short that it won't impact it. It works, but I don't know if I'm a fan of it. Here the stuff is just not on the grid, like that synth there. I don't know if that's a deliberate choice, but it feels like you forgot to align something. Overall, I think that the bass is also too loud for the kick. It doesn't have that punch factor to the kick that I'm looking for, you know what I mean? mix and I still like high-tech. When you go to a high-tech party, it's all old people. Bass is more prominent than the kick, yes. It's a mixing decision that if you think about your mix properly, about what the elements should do, then it makes no sense, right? Because the kick is what we dance to. The kick is most important. I sometimes feel like a little bit of a broken record when I do these feedback streams, because it feels like the same people submit tracks with the same problems over and over again. But on the other hand, I'm just going to sit here and just say it. Stuff like that, it's about making the mixing decision right. Which element is the most important element in the track? It's the kick, so it should be the loud. Wait, my microphone. Everything is going to shit today, I'm sorry. Camera not working, microphone falling over. That might have significantly improved the audio quality, what I just did. Just putting it back in the place where it's supposed to be. And again, it's such a shame because the production is so good. The ideas are so good. You just need to take time and apply that same, detail to cleaning it up, mixing it and mastering it. Make a soundboard with these returning tips. I've made videos about it. Okay, I'll take down the bass a bit. How? There's a sample from the subway station in my track. I don't think that will be copyrighted. So I think that there won't be a problem there. Again, really cool production. Just has some major issues with the mix and fuck off, we transfer. Immediately tries to get me to buy into their servers. Anyway, yeah, good track, good production. The last thing that I will say is I don't want to be negative here about tracks like this. For those that aren't new here, they already know that I say this every feedback stream, but I don't point out all of the positive things as the track is playing because I want you guys to hear the track as much as possible. And if I just sit here saying, oh, I like that, I like that, I like that, it's not going to add anything to it. The other thing that I will say is, and this is specifically for psychedelic underground records, I saw that you wrote in chat, okay, I will take the bass down a bit. If that's your main takeaway from this feedback session, then I think that's wrong, right? And the reason why I say that is what I just explained, this whole idea of spending more time on figuring out the mix. It's not something about, okay, I'll turn this knob down a bit and then it's gonna be okay. It's the systematic idea of when you're mixing, you need to first identify what it is that I need to do and then do it, right? It's not about, oh, I need to put this element there and that and that and that. It's having a plan from your track from the very start. What is the most important element? That's a question that you can ask yourself. The answer is going to be the kick. What is the second most? It's going to be the bass. What is the third most? Oh, it's going to be this lead. What is the fourth most? It's going to be this other lead. And that's going to change from section to section because leads don't always play. But once you have established that, then you have a template that you can mix around. If you never make that template, if you never ask yourself before you start mixing, this is before you start mixing. This is not something like the project is open and, oh, now I need to mix, what do I need to do? This is, when you're producing, you should already know this, right? You should already be writing the track from the idea that you're going to mix the track in a certain way. Because you need to leave space and you need to have enough space for the elements that you want to stand out to actually stand out. And that's just not being done here. It's, again, just like the last track, it's like you sat down for a cool sound design session and then never stopped to think about, okay, what should the sounds actually do in the track? what is it that I'm trying to tell with the track, right? Which story do I want to write with the leads? And that's the next step in production. It's once you have your sound design down, you need to start working on taking the tool that is sound design and actually using it to tell stories. Because at the end of the day, a track isn't cool sound design, it's cool stories. That's what you take away from it, right? So, and here the same thing could be said that I said last time, where in terms of focusing on the flow. The flow of the track is, it doesn't feel like you sat down to write a track. It feels like you sat down to write a whole bunch of cool ideas and you just kind of put them together. They're very good ideas, don't get me wrong, and there is a lot of cohesion between them in this case. The last track was a little bit less. How do I want to say? But it's still, there isn't any thought in, okay, the energy level is going to rise here in this part of the track, so all of the elements need to rise in this part, and then we have a fill, and then we go into the next part. That's missing, that key element of flow throughout the track. That is the combination of how all of the individual elements work together. That's just kind of missing. That together with obviously the mix and all of the other things that I said. I feel like a broken record, but I'll still be here doing this. I do every once in a while want to check up on the camera to see if it's not turning off. If it does turn off, I'm just going to leave it off. What's this? Okay. Hello Psyheads, I am new here. I am a big noob, so I am hopeful I can learn from this community. Here's my latest sidetrack attempt. Filter 3. Hope your ears won't hurt. Pillar 3. It's a bit of a louder track. I need to turn my volume down. It's very loud because obviously most of the energy is located in that area where we're very sensitive, right? Between like 5,000 hertz and 1,000 hertz. That's where most of the activity of this track is happening right now, like this area. And we're naturally very sensitive to that. This is how it's done. Clean kick and bass. The noob here just did it perfectly. This is a transient, and you can see that the bass line stops before the transient, which is exactly what you want. Here it's the same thing. This is the transient of the bass, and the kick stops before that transient. This bass line stops here, and then you have the next bass transient. This is how it's done. Overall, I would say that the volume of some elements are still very off balance. The atmospheres are overpowering everything, like the mid-range area here. This is very mid-range heavy. You can see it in here as well. This is kind of staying the same, and then it's rolling up. Your normal sound or your normal sideline track is going to look like more of a scoop here, and then your final builds for the hi-hats. For one of your first attempts, this is really, really good. And it's mixed and mastered. He's using the stereo field. I even like how you did a little build up there, indicating that something was about to happen. send the track to now from Brazil, all the way from Brazil. Imagine how long it will take for it to arrive here. I mean, all of the sound design is on point. I don't like the snare that you chose to have here, mainly because it's one of those kind of whip snares, right? The shook, shook kind of feeling. I like this sound a lot more as a snare. This other snare, it feels even like a little bit off sync, like the transient is happening after the transient of the kick. Jana Kuki, greetings from Finland. There's people from all over the world here. By the way, Finland has a very unique size scene, I discovered. They have their own like subgenre. I don't even know what it's delayed. Why would you delay the snare? From like musically. Why? I can understand that you don't want to have the transients line up, but in that case just remove the transient from the snare. Just like fade it in, right? If you want that kick transient to stand out. Also, I'm feeling like one of the reasons why this track is, I wouldn't say like that the flow is a little bit undefined, because it's not. You're definitely playing with the flow of it, but it feels a little busy, the track. I think part of it has to do with the fact that those atmospheres are just so extremely loud for the track, and so very constant. Like this atmosphere has been playing throughout the whole track. What's the signalizer? Signalizer is the analyzer. The analyzer, it shows me different ways of looking at a track. And you get it by looking for signalizer on Google. Yeah, no, the atmospheres, it's pure reverb, because the way that you're making these atmospheres is going through like a fully wet reverb, I think. At least that's how most people tend to do it. This kind of very rich texture atmosphere that we hear. This is the first time it's really stopping, right? The main thing is just the volume. It's just like 10 dB too loud. Final thing I'll say is outro. Have a little bit of a fade out. Don't just stop the track at the end of the kick and bass. I know usually a DJ will take care of that in a mix, but part of the reason why we write music is for people to listen to it outside of a mix as well. The other thing, yeah, as I said, the track is a little bit busy. Part of it has to do with the way that your atmospheres are just way too loud. The other part has to do with it. Maybe you're putting a few too many elements at the same time. And the reason why I say that is there's a few elements that just play throughout the whole track, a few sequences and a few one-shots, and those get boring over time. The cool thing that you can do with Psytrance is that there are so many types of sound design and so many crazy different sounds, even within the same type of sound design that you can make, you can play one element for a bit and then stop that element and then just go into the next one. And then stop that next one and then go into the next one. Right? The video that I made on analyzing Mushroom Song really went into that concept on how they use different textures to keep the track interesting and keep it moving. And it goes to show how few elements are used in professional tracks. If your element sounds good enough, you can have one main sequence, two supporting sequences, and that's it. One or two one-shots, and that's a 16-bar section of a track. I would never finish it if I did it more interesting. Well, you have to make fewer sounds. That's the point. If each individual sound is as good as it can be, then you need fewer sounds to make interesting stuff. It's a struggle. Yes, it's a struggle for everyone coming up with cool sound design. That's the point, I guess, of sound design. Welcome, Dish and Late. Is that how you say it? Dich? Anyway, the guy with the strange name. Welcome. And Late as well, of course. Jane, I think I already said hello. HD, I said hello, and then I think that's it in terms of names. So this was Tom Zul, or Tomac here in chat. The next one will be Oren Tichkal. Guys, these names, why? Oren DJ Tichkal. This. I don't know how you pronounce an H like this. But anyway, this should be techno, so this should be interesting. Very loud straight out of the gate, I like it. Here again, the higher wobbles of this kind of rumble. This is almost like a side-bass kind of rumble, right? Where you create a side-bass, then use that for your rumble. This is completely mono. I do like if the higher frequencies, you're going up to like 1.5K here. Those higher frequencies can definitely have some stereo interest. But that's the track. Really, really well produced. Mixing wise, it sounded great. There were a few details there. We have a lot of high BPM tracks today. Yes, indeed. I like it. Keeps me energized and awake. This is Psychal, Sell Your Soul to ... official audio by Costilla. Costlia. Sorry. The sidechain is on the loop. No, I meant like the kick sounded, because it's too quiet for the rest of the track, it sounded like you were sidechaining like the kick by accident. Because the rest of the kicks were fine. I don't really care about the cleanliness of something like this. There's no way you are going to get that cleaned up. I just wanted to check what you were doing there. It's a bit strange that that kick bill just kind of comes out of nowhere. Ah, wait. I mean, again, cleanliness. Clean up your stuff. These tracks are so high quality that I'm intimidated to hear my feedback. It's gonna be okay. I tend to be very nice. I think my problem with this track here is that there's not much happening in the mid-range. Your kick and bass is very quiet here in this area. Overall, I would say your hi-hats are slightly loud. I like that they have that kind of brightness that is going to give you that hum that you want, but there's not enough stuff happening here, right? I'm not a fan of the snare. The snare is way too long. I would also say that something like a 909 open hat would probably work better here, because it just has a little bit more texture. It feels like I'm listening to some white noise in the top. you went with a very progressive kind of kick and bass pattern, and then it's just the same pattern over and over again. Which means that after a while it just kind of gets boring, especially now that there's nothing else playing. Again, the snare is way too long here. You could halve the length and it would still be a long snare. And now there's just nothing happening in the mid-range, so again, you end up with this kind of scoop here, where it feels like the heads are overly bright and overly... Which they're not. They're not like it's mixed brightly, these heads. It's just that there's nothing happening in here. Even now with this one melody playing, you can see how many holes there are in the frequency spectrum. I like the ideas, I like the melody, I like basically everything. I like the bass pattern as well. It's just... It does show that you're very much a beginner, right? Because the things that I'm pointing out here is kind of beginner mistakes. Another thing that you often hear with beginners is that they make a bunch of elements and then they try to arrange a track from all of those elements. We're again going back into the same path. We are continuously hearing the same bass pattern, that kind of stuff. At some point you need to change it up to make it more interesting. Like, this sound design sounds really cool. It sounds like a really cool lead. It's just we've heard this so many times now. I'm getting bored of it. Oh, some new people. Dada is here. Welcome. The Charmich. Welcome as well. The final thing, I don't know if this is the cleanliness of the kick and bass not allowing it through, or just the kick not having enough higher information. The kick feels very, very dark. You can see it on the spectrum. I think this has to do with just the way that you created or processed or whatever it is that you did to it. But the kick lacks any content above like 3K. Which makes it very dark, and in this part it's okay. It works in this part, but when all of the other elements come in, it lacks, right? Everybody here welcoming Dada because of his wavetables. Nice. Okay, so that's that track. Again, all of the ideas are really cool. The melody, I really like the melodic idea that you put in there, first playing it a little bit and then playing it more. That's really cool, because then it's kind of like a musical way of building up the tension, right? You first give somebody a little bit of a taste of the melody and then you play it as a whole thing. It's something that, how should it, a beginner track, it's hard to describe why you hear it, but you immediately hear that it's off because there's like small details about all of the things that kind of work, and then the bigger picture just kind of doesn't. And I think that is here the case. This is just a case, I would say, of write 10 more tracks and you'll be able to write professional music, right? As long as you stick to the basics of, okay, we're going to have a production, I'm then going to mix it, and then as I described before, you want to have your mixing process set up in a way that you're already thinking about the mix when you're producing. And then finally, clean up your kick and bass. I'm going to say it again. At some point, I'm going to indeed buy a soundboard, and I'm just going to have a button that I can press to explain it for you. I'll record a few voice lines that I can just, anytime the kick and bass isn't clean, I can just press it and I don't have to say it over and over again. But it's so important that your kick and bass is clean. I want to say that it's the most important thing about the track when it comes to getting a professional sound. And not because a professional sound needs a clean kick and bass and that's the only thing that matters. What matters is that you come in with a mindset that allows you, if your mindset leads you to not having a clean kick and bass, you'll never write professional music. That's kind of my, like, the thought behind it. If you're never gonna go, like, okay, into detail, trying to figure out what the track needs to do and what all of the element needs to do, and cleanliness is a big part of that because that relates to how it transitions into a festival setting, partially, and also how it translates to the punch of the kick and the clarity of the bass transient. Those two things are what you're actually kind of focusing on when it comes to cleaning up the kick and bass, because you're making room for those transients, right? That's the whole idea behind the resampling process, adding in those fades, and then recreating your bass line from the MIDI bass line that you have, turning it into an audio bass line, is so that you have those little fades in there, and it creates the space for the next transient to come through. When your kick and bass isn't cleaned up, it tells me that you don't have the mindset to watch out for the details of your track, which is where the professionals are just a step ahead, because they do, right? Anytime you hear professional music, it's not like, oh, they're doing something different in the sound design, they're doing something different in the music writing. Again, here, the structure works, the sound design is there, the kick and bass works, the kick and bass pattern works. You just didn't look at the details. I'm signaling a lot with my hands, like my camera is still on, by the way. Anyway, we have a lot of submissions. Nice. Where are we? We're here. Risto? H-R-I-S-T-O. I'm just going to spell out your name whenever I don't understand it. Man who isn't an artist dash next station 200 BPM A sharp. That's going to be interesting. We're going even faster than before. Okay. Very strange open bassline sound. It's clean. It doesn't really have a transient, the bassline itself, but the kick transient is respected. Professionals making money with it, everything else is hobbyist. It has nothing to do with the quality of your music. Well, usually in the music industry we tend to refer to quality of music by kind of the people that are associated with that level. Professional music tends to be the quality of the music from people that do it professionally. And that's what I'm saying here. Obviously, I'm not making an assumption of if somebody's making money from the track just purely on the waveform. Like, I would argue that this is professional level quality. And therefore I would consider this professional music. I started a project at 260. That's going to be very, very interesting. I'm not sure if I'm a fan of the open bassline sound. It's like you forgot the filter envelope. It's a cool idea, but I'm not sure if it really, like, aesthetically works for me. Here the vocal can be louder. The vocal was clearly in there to tell us something, so it should stand out of the mix. That's very loud, as you can see. Another mix thing I would say is that the snare is a bit too loud. And an aesthetic thing that I would say, it's not wrong, again, this bassline, but if you're gonna do such an open bassline, I would highly recommend stereoizing the higher frequencies. It makes it more interesting, the sound. Because overall, working with the stereo field is the easiest way to make your sound more interesting. Everybody trying to... What about beats per second? You can set the BPM equal to your Nyquist frequency and just have one kick on every sample. Yeah, you can see this is completely mono, right? So there's not a lot of stereo interest happening. Overall, very, very cool track. The production was very well done. The mix was very well done. What I did want to say, it's still, yeah, okay. It still feels like, to me, the bassline being so open and not having the filter modulation on it, it's like you've accidentally turned off the filter for your bassline and never turned it on again. I don't know if that's true, but it does sound like it. Like you forgot to turn on the filter again before exporting. I don't know if that's actually the case here. If you are committing to that open bassline idea, again, I would say open it up a little bit more with the stereo field so that you get an actual interesting stereo sound out of it. Right, in the higher frequencies, obviously not anything below like 200 hertz, but anything above that you can stereoize, and then the sound just becomes interesting, more interesting, and it doesn't really have any negatives. Nowadays, most of the stereo processing that we're doing on bassline 1, you're not going to get into any problems. I don't know what you mean by open bassline. So what you have with your bassline is that you let me just quickly get a patch. This is going to be much easier. Actually, this describes it, right? Yes, this is a good reason to get the Mind B back of basslines. I don't know if Mind B is still here, but there's a quick plug for him. He sells a bunch of presets, and they come with the open close thing. That's how you can kind of see what it is. This is your standard baseline, right? If you make it more open, that filter cutoff is going to be higher throughout its modulation. And what you did with your baseline is you essentially just did this. Like the filter was even higher. It was staying like this, right? There wasn't anything closing that filter. It's like the filter didn't exist, as I said. It's like you made your baseline. Let's go back to the starting patch. It's like you made your baseline like this, and then you turned off the filter. And this became your baseline. You miss me? I miss myself too sometimes. I know, it's the camera, I'm still here. Just picture me being here. Maybe I do have a picture of myself that I can quickly put on there. This is different stuff. Oh, there's a lot of stuff that you guys aren't supposed to see there. Nice. Profile pic. What if I just put this in the corner? Can I do that, or when I go back to Ableton will it go away? This is high quality face cam here. It doesn't respond to my voice. At some point I would like to do that with AI and just have it mimic my voice, so that way when the camera turns off you guys have this picture to stare at. I think if I now go, yeah, into Ableton it goes away. Maybe just for fun, image, browse. There. Now I'll always be here. Let's stretch it roughly to the dimensions of the face cam. Now I'm here. Perfect. I'm still doing things to the camera, trying to make like movement with my arms. Very Italian, obviously. Even though I'm not Italian, I've been picking up on the hand gesture stuff, the hand gesture culture for the last 10 years. I can make my face cam bigger now that I see. Nice and wide projector here. I've squashed it a bit. I do want it to be the dimensions of the face cam so that it's as authentic as it can be. I also was a little bit thinner when that photo was taken, so I'm just making myself a little bit bigger to reflect that I've become a little bit fatter, like a few kilos fatter. That's just why it's there. I don't know. Is this a bit? I don't know. Next up, we have Bliss Seeker Yanakuki Psychedelic Remix. The original is by Deepak. So this is a remix. Jane, I don't know. Finnish is not my first language. I cannot play remixes. And the reason for that is the YouTube copyright system. So unless you have permission to remix this, if you have like a license or permission or even written permission from the artist or the label that this is like an official remix, then I can play it, then I'm willing to play it. Otherwise, you have permission. Okay, perfect. I mean, even then it can get sketchy because the copyright system may still claim it. Audios.
Have you made, say, millions of dollars?
But I'll fight the claim when it gets claimed, and then I'll refer to you, obviously.
You have a lot of possessions, a lot of money in the bank.
Or you shall make you rich. I don't have that type of richness. My richness is
I like the intro. This bass line, it doesn't have the space to go into the transient. It feels like it goes a little bit in the transient of the kick. So if that's the case, clean it up. It's hard to see when there's a lot of stuff happening. The other thing I would say is that the kick lacks like its click, right? It's tuck, tick, 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 tick. You kind of want that top kick feeling on top of it. have that now.
If you can do things all of your life and make you happy, needless to say, you're going to be a happy person.
The only OG there is the voice tracks. Cool. When it comes to mixing vocals, I've talked about this before. I like to think of vocals as something, how should I explain it? Like it's in a foreign language, almost. In the sense that here the vocals don't stand out. You cannot hear what he's saying. And when it comes to vocals, that's the important part, because they're storytelling material. Even if you're editing them or they're not really meant to tell a story, we do still want to understand the vocals, because psychologically we can identify vocals, right? That's part of nature. We hear when something is a voice, a human voice or not. Even when you mess it up with like a 4-man shift or something else, we can still hear, oh, that's a voice. It's something that's speaking. So I should probably listen to it. If the mix doesn't allow for that, it's really hard to concentrate on that vocal. So mixing wise, you always take a vocal and put it on top of the track.
Have you made, say, millions of dollars?
Like this is good, right? This is where you have some space for those higher frequencies to sit in. And we can hear what he's saying.
You have a lot of possessions, a lot of money in the bank.
Or we can make you rich. I don't have that type of richness.
It's also more likely that people will recall your track because of the vocal. Not everyone can remember beat boop sounds like us producers. In fact, I would argue even as producers, we tend to recall tracks by the vocal. Right? If I say Deep Jungle Walk by Asterix, all we hear is that vocal line that sits in the intro and the first drop. Right? Those vocals stand out. They speak visions of their own minds. That vocal line, we all kind of remember that vocal line, how it sounds, but the kind of bandpass plugs that he uses in the drop after that, I don't remember exactly what it sounds like. I would know how to make it. In fact, I have. Oh nice, another website with autoplay. Anyway, I hope I could give some tips here. There's not much more to say about it. Like, again, the production quality of this track is really, really well done. And it's detail works that is important at this stage. I think that's the case with a lot of people in my community. My community tends to be producers who know what they're doing, songwriting-wise. And most of the time what I hear when it comes to giving feedback like this, it's those detail things that are sometimes just hard to hear. Like kick and bass cleanliness is never something you're going to hear on, I would even argue, like decently sounding studio monitors, right? You need to be in really like in a treated studio, would you be able to actually hear the impact of that is happening. The problem is, kick and bass cleanliness is really important when it comes to translating your track onto a PA system that is used on a festival or in a club. There it becomes really, really important that you make space for your kick and bass transients, because a PA system will actually push your track to the maximum, right? For one, the track is going to be played very, very loudly, so all of the details are going to stand out even more. And if your transient is kind of muddied up by that stuff that is happening before, that bass that is kind of post-ringing into the transient, that problem is going to stand out more. People are going to say like, hey, why does this track not have the punch like the last track had and the track after it had? Because part of the reason why it's important is your track is played in a live set with other tracks that presumably do have their kick and bass cleaned up. So they do have that extra punch that comes with it. And if your track is going to stand out if it does not have that, especially when it's very, very bad. Like a little bit of uncleanliness, a little bit of bringing into the kick and bass is okay. In fact, if I go to my reference tracks and I look up one of my favorite tracks here, the GMS remix of Full Throttle, you'll see that there is a little bit of that post-ringing still happening here in the kick. Do you see it? It's just ever so slightly. But one of the things you'll notice is this kick does have a lot of space, even though it's post-ringing into this part here. And this is probably a master engineer that put one high-pass filter on the track when they were done. Should you cut the bass with the kick signal? No. No, you need to resample your bass line. What you need to do when you have a bass line, say that you have a bass patch. Again, I'll quickly just open up a Mind Beat patch here. You're gonna have a patch. You're gonna have a MIDI note here. It's very windy outside. I think you can hear it. Yeah, this is good. This is the right thing. I want to turn that up. Perfect. Let's say that we process this a bit. I'm just going to emulate some processing with some high-pass filters here, like this. Obviously, you wouldn't process the bassline that I just opened up because it already has the processing in it. But let's say that you do it anyway. Let's see what happens to this bass if we record it. And again, remember that the MIDI note is this long, right? So we would expect the bass to stop here. Oh, I should actually arm for recording. Do you see how much extra bass line there is here? Now what you can do is once you have this recording, you can just hop, delete, and then like so. Now I can duplicate this and look at what's happening to this transient here. The line just kind of stops here and then the transient comes. So that's how you clean up a kick and bass. And now obviously you would need to recreate your whole bass line again from audio. That's unfortunate that you have to do that, but it's kind of the chores that you have to do to you know, sometimes around the house you have to spend an afternoon doing all of the dishes, doing laundry, cleaning up the house, all of that stuff. That also has to happen when it comes to Psytrance production in the form of cleaning up your kick and bass, and especially rewriting your whole bass line with like an audio format bass. It's like polishing the sound. Yes, exactly. And it's really hard to convince people to do this because you cannot hear it, right? On your system at home, you're not going to hear the change, but when you're playing it on the PA system, you're definitely going to hear it. It's definitely going to muddy up the whole transient part of your kick, especially because people tend to not fix the kick kind of, or the bass kind of fading into the kick. But also the transients of individual bass notes can be affected as well. How long have I been streaming? I've been streaming for 1.5 hours, which means that it's time for my quick break. I'll put on one of my tracks. I'll actually put on a new master that I did. Did I play this already? I played this already. I guess this one is also good. These are new masters. They're initial masters. They're not finalized in any way. But this is just a major balance between all of the elements that I'm probably going to have for all of these, for this track. The Awakening is great. Yes, but this is a preview. I like to preview stuff that is not out yet. So this is Beyond. Gonna come out hopefully very, very soon. And yeah, I'll play it and I'll be back when this track is finished, and then we'll get back to Tom, Zam, Proni, Daemon, Horn, Forms, whatever. Then we'll get back into the next track. I should say it like that. With all of the pronunciation, it's sometimes a little bit hard. Ooh. You guys cannot see it because, again, the camera isn't working. During a break like this, and it was published, and I got a copyright notice. If you publish it yourself, yeah, you will get a copyright notice from yourself. At the end of the day, that shouldn't matter, because if you claim your own video, you should still get your own video's money. It's annoying that you have to do that. Too bad camera isn't working. There is actually a big benefit to it, and that is that I potentially don't have to wear any clothes. And seeing as it's very hot here, it does come with a benefit. Not saying that I'm not wearing any clothes, just I don't have to. Oh, there's a little baseline there. There's, as you can see, still some things to clean up in this track here. I just have to picture that. Just imagine me looking like that, okay? At some point, when I get really, how should I say, desperate for money, I will use my Patreon that I have now, and I will post pictures, or I will do streams like this. I'll make my money that way, if I have to. Let's hope that it never comes to that. But there's always the possibility. If you guys want to see it, you can just subscribe to my Patreon, and one day I will start doing naked live streams there. Anyway, next track that we're going to listen to is Daemon 146D Horns Forms. Horns Forms. Let's see. Please don't. You guys don't want to see me naked? Okay. I'll keep that into account for when I record the next video. Nice and detailed intro. I would say that the kick and bass can use a little bit more introduction. We hate to see this cleanliness. I don't know who this is in chat, or in my YouTube chat, I should say. Yeah. But if you're still watching, obviously clean your stuff. Nice and dark.
Oh my God!
Overall, I think the things that are happening in like breaks like that should be a little bit quieter, so that when the kick and bass comes back, it has a bit of impact. And honestly, you can just take the kick and bass and boost it by like 2 dB in this track. It should be fine. It's very mono though. Like, look at this. You can stereonize the higher frequencies of your bass, but especially when it comes to leads and stuff like this, that should just be stereo play all over. my JBL. It sounds very good, yeah. Mix-wise, it's good. I wouldn't say great. Obviously, part of the mix is going to be your cleanliness. That's one thing. The stereo mix is obviously on your speaker. It's not going to come through because that's a mono speaker. Even if you put your speaker somewhere and it would have like stereo speakers, they would still come from the same place, so you don't get the stereo effect. So you wouldn't be able to hear that. But personally, I think that for a good mix, stereo is very, very important. I published a video today, actually, right? Let me check. It went out today. Yeah, 4 levels of separation. One of the 4 levels is the stereo field, and it's just as important as volume and frequency when it comes to mixing. I do sometimes feel like a lot of people forget it. This is just a case where you just kind of forgot that the stereo field is something that you need to check for all of the sounds and make sure that, you know, that it has that there's some interesting stuff happening in the stereo field. You're very close to your speaker. Well, you would need to have for a stereo field experience, you would basically need to sit like 1 or 2 feet. Why do I say feet? Like 60 centimeters away from it. And even then, that's with like studio speakers, which are usually positioned much farther away, the left and the right speaker, than on like a Bluetooth speaker that you have. And it might just be the case that that Bluetooth speaker in and of itself is mono. Remember that the stereo field is the difference between the left and the right speaker. So you need to be sitting in the middle of it so that you can hear those differences in your left ear and in your right ear. That's why headphones give the best stereo field experience, because left ear only goes into the left and right channel only goes into the right ear. With speakers, there's also always a crossover. The left speaker does get to your right ear. But because you separate those speakers in the space, you are able to identify the left speaker from the right speaker. And that's not the case when it comes to very small distances between those 2 speakers. Which is essentially, even if your Bluetooth speaker is stereo, they're still almost like next to each other, those 2 speakers. So you don't have that separation. I am lacking the fills here in this production. The kick and bass just kind of goes on. I know that there's some spots where the bass line doesn't play for 1 beat, but that's not enough in my opinion. Especially when you're transitioning, like you're doing between different energy levels, then 1 beat is not enough time to make that transition. But overall, great production. Again, as I said before, I don't like to point out all of the positive things about the production, because then I would just be sitting here saying, I like that, I like that. That's not good information, and I want you guys to be able to hear the track as much as possible. That being said though, this is a very, very good production. Again, props here. When it comes to my community, the people in it are just very, very good producers, and they just know like how to make a psytrance track. It's again about the details, right? I don't have to sit here and point out that the structure is wrong or sound design doesn't work in the track. Oh, by the way, This is Virtual Instinct with Night Harvest, master 150 BPM. That's nice having a master. It tells me that you're finished with this production. Yeah, here again, tininess, especially when you're doing kick fills like that. You can really, at that point you hear, right? I would say you have way too much sub bass. The sub bass can be lower in volume than your first harmonic, and that would be okay. This very high sub bass kind of exaggerates that kind of muffled sound that you get from not cleaning your kick and bass, because obviously the sub bass is the sound that rings through it. Right now that the sub bass is high pass, you can see individual transients, which you cannot see here. This is just a wall of sub bass. Do you see that's 3 bass notes, but it looks like one, the one that just showed on the waveform. Better than last time. I don't know how it was last time, but this is not good. It might be better than something, but it's still not good, right? Like, this is supposed to be a kick. We can go back later and I can show you my waveform, for example, from the Beyond Master. You can see the kick transient in my waveform. Here, it's just a wall of sub bass, because this sub bass is just continuing into the kick until the kick starts providing sub bass, and then that sub bass continues into this bass here. And you can hear there's no punch to this kick and bass, right? It's just continuously pushing out volume. And that's one of the side effects that you get from that post rigging. See you. Thank you for stopping by, dude. I don't know how you cleaned it up, if you did actually resample it. What might be the case is you resampled it for last time and then you mastered it. And in that mastering you just used a bunch of multiband processors. That's going to definitely mess it up. I do want to point out though that this track is very interesting in the stereo field. I like how you're using the stereo field for different elements. I like that the atmospheres are very, very stereo. That's a good decision. I like that the leads are a little bit more mono. The reason why I like that is when you do sum to mono, you want your atmospheres to sit back a little bit more, basically. You want them to collapse a little bit more from the phase inversion that happens when you sum to mono. Then you want your leads, so that your leads get extra space as you sum to mono. Because obviously you have one channel instead of two in terms of space. So you need to get that space from somewhere else, and the way that you get that space is by the more stereo you make a sound, the less it's noticeable in mono. And therefore you can make decisions like, okay, if I'm lacking this extra channel that I have when it's summed to mono, I want the atmospheres, which are the least important elements, I want those to sit back the most. So I make those the most stereo. Yeah, this kick and bass is a problem. This kick and bass is not going to translate to a PA system whatsoever. I would argue even listening to it now, it just lacks that punch, and I think that is purely going to come from not cleaning your kick and bass. It is unclean to the point where I can hear it on my headphones. And I don't know how that works, if it's the way that you're mastering it, if you did resample it, if you decided to put on a lot of extra filters after that still. Might be the case that you're using a very strong high-pass filter for your filter transitions. For filter transitions, I always recommend linear phase because you're just not going to have any phasing issues. You might have some pre-ringing issues, okay, but they're not going to be worse than post-ringing issues that you get from non-linear phase. I do have a video on it. If you need some guidance, I will always recommend this video that I have here. It's a great guidance to cleaning up your kick and bass. I go over all of the problems that you may have and how you fix them, and also how to then prevent your kick and bass from becoming unclean later in the production phase. Anyway, it's a great production. The last thing that I will say is that towards the end, I kind of get tired of the main lead. I feel like you're using that main lead throughout the whole track. And my recommendation there is, instead of spending time trying to make this one lead interesting for like 7-8 minutes, or whatever the track length is, maybe 6 minutes if you just count the drops, it's much easier to take that lead, play it for like 16 bars or maximum 32 bars, and then just move on to the next part. Right? Just sound design a new sound that you can use, and then just make a new rhythm, something cool, something different. There's another video that I've recently published that goes over this idea. Mushroom song analysis. This video performed very, very poorly. Unfortunately, because I published it at midnight. There was like a YouTube bug with the scheduling. And also posted it a day after I posted another video, but that other video just had to be posted then because of the fact that it was tied to like the release of a product, that Stepic video. So that video performed very poorly, but the concepts in that video are very, very important to keeping your track interesting over time. I go through like a professional track, and I go through how they're using the change of sound design between between the different sections. Sorry, I was distracted by the question Rich sent. I think this is left-right. Separate. I don't know what it separates, but I do think that it's separately left and right combined, because I don't see an option for left-right here, right? There's a mid plus side, which I assume would show us the middle and the side, but this is left and right. I don't think it really matters what option I have. it should just give you an overview of like the spectrum as a whole. Let's see. Next up, we have Klaus, who finally decided to add a profile picture to his Discord account. Looking good there, bro. Anyway, this is Eternal Drift by Klaus K. Is a bit too long. I think the bass here is cleaned. I think you resampled your bass, but maybe not your kick. I'm on everything below 120 Hz, so left right colors should overlap. I don't know when your track is on, but we'll see if that's the case. Does the bass come in here? It felt like it started with just the kick. Like the bass is kind of moving in and out, maybe? It is a very Klausian track in that there's a lot of stuff happening and a lot of unique kind of cool instrumentation here. I'm not sure if I'm a fan of the lack of transient on the bass line. It does give you a lot of space to work with, which is always handy when it comes to like mixing and stuff. Wait, another Klaus? Does that mean that we have 3 Klauses now in the community? Because there was another one, like the last feedback stream there were. Or was that also you? I don't remember, I see too many names. I have no idea actually what is happening. I think there's 4 things happening in here because there's sometimes it looks like there's one that has a little bit of delay like going down, right? Like the green one. The green one here and here for some reason the blue one. You found me on Patreon. Looking like this, with no shirt on, or just my normal Patreon page. For those that don't know, because my camera is not working, I have a little profile picture on there. Just imagine me looking like that, even though I'm currently not wearing a shirt. Is it hot in Europe? Yes. Yes, especially my room because I don't have an AC. It's facing the sun in the afternoon. And my PC obviously is right here next to me, my desk, and it's pushing out hot air. So the kick is too long and the bass needs transient? Yes. Yes, that's pretty much it. I mean, when it comes to your tracks, Klaus, there's not much to say, right? Always, it's almost always that your productions are just top notch and it sounds really, really good. In this case, it's again just like a few details that you could take care of, and then it's finished, I would say. Yes, found your page to support you. Oh, perfect. Thank you very much. After the stream, actually, that reminds me, I have to look at my Patreon and send every new supporter the message and stuff like that they have to connect their Patreon to their Discord. If there are any Patreon supporters here who haven't done that yet, you can add your Discord account to your Patreon account, and then you'll get access to my Patreon area for the Discord server. And there's space. You get like a nice thing on the Discord. You get like a nice role. Everybody sees that you're supporting me, and there's also the place where you can ask for music feedback for the patrons. When it comes to my patrons, I give more detailed feedback to them. I just write like a few paragraphs anytime somebody sends me a track. So there's an area for that as well. What is this? Is feedback still open? Yes. Okay. Let's move on to the next track, which is Ratus with Echo. Very nice artwork there. Looks very cool. Massachusetts, it's 24C. Shouldn't be an F if you're in Massachusetts. Don't you guys use Fahrenheit still? I'm glad you translated it for us, but I assume 24F would be very, very cold for this time of year. That's like freezing, right? Yeah, because 32 is 0 degrees. Please roast you. I'm not here to roast people. I'm here to point out a few things that they can do in their track to improve it. And so far it doesn't sound like somebody who has just spent a year producing. It sounds like the production part, you have been doing it for longer. When it comes to the mix, you probably know what I'm going to say. Clean up your transients here. In this case, it's masked very hard by what's happening in the leads, so you cannot really see the bass. Overall, I think the bass is a bit quiet. But I'm going to assume that the bass line isn't cleaned up, I think. $75.5. Fahrenheit is indeed very, very weird. I mean, any measurement system that the Americans use, the imperial system, is strange to us. I guess it makes sense to them, but the numbers that they use to convert is very strange. Here I would say, because you have those singing vocals, in terms of mix you want to make more space for them, right? And you can do that in the production by just leaving a few regions of like frequency area for them, especially the higher frequencies. When you connect your Discord account to your Patreon account, it should update. It takes sometimes up to an hour to update. But it should update at some point, and then you can scroll down. Here's the stream area that we have, and then here's Patreon area. Once your name shows up here in one of the levels, depending on which level you support me at. It's not too hot anymore. It is here in Italy. Keep in mind that I'm used to Dutch temperatures. I was made in the Netherlands and now I moved to Italy. So 30 degrees is hot for me. And it's like 32, 33 here. Cosmonome, how are you doing? Welcome. I like the overall mix. I like the overall balance that you have between the elements. That's really good. As I said before, the bass line can use a lot more. It's your second most important element in the track. So give it the volume that it needs. The other thing I would say is the kick sounds a bit muffled. Again, that's going to be part of the reason is going to be just your lack of space for the transient. The other part is that there's not a lot of stuff happening in the kick on the very high frequency. Hans, you always thought that I was Finnish. I guess it's a mix of Italian accent and Dutch accent that gets me closer to the Finnish accent. Anyway, really, really good track. I really like it. It's 22 here. Where do you live again? I'm alright here in Sweden. Yeah, in Sweden it's probably not going to be as hot as it is in here. Look into that. I haven't cleaned the bass yet, so I'll try that. Yeah, that's really the main two things. Is bassline should be a bit louder and kick and bass should probably be cleaned up. There's a good assumption that if somebody doesn't know about kick and bass cleaning, that it's not cleaned. With audio levels, it's experience, audio levels, stuff like that. For one, it's the mind. You have to get again into that mindset of before you even go into mixing. Yeah, part of it is practice. Practice obviously makes perfect, but the other thing is that before you go into mixing, the part where you put all of the elements together and turn it into a finalized song, you have to determine what the role of each element is in the track. My track is coming if you have time. I do have time. Yes, yes. In fact, I have like an hour and a half left to listen. 2 hours. It's 7. I have stuff to do at 9, so I have 2 more hours that I can sit here. When it comes to mixing and especially when you're practicing, you have to get into the habit of, before you go into mixing, knowing exactly what you want to do in the mix, right? And you start by just saying, okay, kick is the most important element, so it probably needs to stand out the most in the mix. Then the second thing is going to be the bass line, right? The bass line is a little bit more of a supportive element. Usually the other leads kind of take over in the higher frequencies, but definitely the lowest frequencies, anything below like 200 hertz, should be completely taken up by the bass line if the kick is not playing. Then the third part there, you go into, okay, which is my main lead element? In this case, probably maybe the vocal pad that sits in part of the drop. In other parts of the drop, there might be some kind of lead in there. But you have to create balance between your main elements when it comes to lead elements, when it comes to not kick and bass, anything disregarding kick and bass and drums. You have to make a distinction between your main element and all of your supporting elements, and then you have to mix accordingly. That main element has to stand out from the supporting elements, because the supporting element supports the main element, right? And it's the main element that tells kind of the story of your track. In this case, I really, really, really like that vocal line. That's really well done. So I would mix that as, wherever it is playing, as the main element. That all of the other leads kind of slightly take a step back so that that vocal can really shine through the track. Obviously on top of the kick and the bass and the drums. And then when it comes to stuff like effects, the effects are, again, are supportive elements. Something like a riser is a supportive element that just pushes the energy level of the track. So you mix those probably the quietest out of all of your elements. Oh, it updated. Your Patreon thing updated. Can you see now it's red? So your name becomes red and you have this area that you can go into. There's not a lot of people using it. I need to push my Patreon area more here, because I do think that it's nice to have my Patreon community like actually talking to each other and stuff like that. I do have a lot of Patreon supporters, but a lot of people just say like, oh, I don't want any of the benefits that you offer on your channel. I don't want to have early access to the videos. I can see how many people actually watch the videos with early access. It's very little. Even the ones that I've published now, the 5 video, or I guess now it's 2 videos that are still in early access. Between the 5 videos, when I push them in early access, they have 4 views. Oh no, there's 3 more videos that are in early access but aren't out yet on the channel. Can I show this? No money on the screen, yes. I usually post in bulk, right? So I record in bulk, edit in bulk, and then post in bulk. These 2 videos have since come out. It doesn't show here because I actually uploaded like twice. And then these are the 3 videos that are still to come out. These are already available to the patrons. They can already see them. Nobody, as you can see from the view count, like nobody makes use of that. 3, 0, 2, 0, 2. So this is 7 views for 5 videos, right? Which is not a lot. I have like 20, 23, 24 patrons, something like that. 90% of the patrons don't actually make use of the service that I provide to the Patreon supporters. You know, the feedback and that kind of stuff. Every once in a while, I'll have a Patreon supporter message me and say like, oh, I want some feedback on this track, whatever. And then obviously I give it to them. But there's not a lot of people actually make use of it. And I would like it to be used more. Because I do feel like, okay, I'm taking money off these people. I need to provide something for that. And I guess... Am I back? I got a quick disconnect, but now I should be back. Hello? That's the annoying thing. I cannot see now on stream if my camera is back. You are. Okay, perfect. So as I was saying, yeah, the Patreon area is underused. I would like to have that used more. And that just means that I have to push my Patreon more and get a few more supporters. And then hopefully people will start chatting there. Not my camera. Yes, my camera is that, and that's why we have the picture there. Anyway, let's continue here. We have Hans K, Brampunkt, Triple Cheese, Veni. You might be hearing some children screaming. There's kids playing in the area behind me. I like this. This is good. This is a clean kick and bass. This is what your waveform should look like, right? You can see volume stops, kick plays, volume stops, bass plays, volume stops, another bass plays. That's good. Even the stab there, you can still see the transient after the stab is just completely normal, which is exactly what we're looking for. I like how this track is tagged as alternative rock on SoundCloud. It is indeed not your normal kind of rock that you would normally hear. So you're correct. Here I would say the vocals, because you have that big choir in here, can stand out a lot more if you want. Obviously here the lead kind of should take over. But there's just something about choirs that I really like, so whenever I hear it in the mix, I want them to stand out. A bit more progressive this track. For a progressive track, the build-up feels a little bit weak. You usually hear that the build-up has really increasing energy. It was a little bit on the short side here. And the final thing I'll say is I don't agree with the lack of brightness here. This is where your hi-hats should be shining, and I can barely hear them. Your hi-hats and your percussions and all of your like top loop stuff, whatever you use for your top loop. It's not just hi-hats anymore, even for me. I tend to spray in a few drum loops and stuff like that, but all of it should be contributing to that little extra bulge that you see in the hi-hat. I have another slower track from my side project, Unsunned. I don't know how to pronounce that. Anyway, this is 145 BPM Moonlight Sonata by this, however you pronounce that. Let's have a listen. I see, I'm so afraid of making the track too bright. This is a good example here. You can see it's not overly bright, this track, but you can see this kind of rolling off here, and then there's this tiny bit of right whenever the hi-hat actually hits. Even in this track, it could be a little bit more. Also here, I assume that you already know what I'm going to say here, cleanliness. I won't hammer on it too much. The key of the drop doesn't fit the key of the Beethoven. I didn't catch that, but that might be the case. Also, I'm not the best with music theory, so that might be a reason why I didn't catch it. I had to adjust that if that's the case, yes, I agree. I wasn't able to catch it, but I trust it. Guido knows music theory better than I do. I'm not a fan of the transient on your snare. I think that the transient of the snare takes over the kick too much. You can just use a transient shaper on there to just lower that very initial attack. It's a few milliseconds that you need to shave off of the transient. Just that very small part where the kick transient exists, right? This little click here, you can take that partially out of your snare, not all the way. It will, one, help with just making your kick transient stand out more, but also you won't get those high peaks that you get from combining two transients together. Does indeed feel strange what's happening here with the chords versus the bass line just staying in one key. Also, one thing to notice is the rhythm. That's triplets, right? That's what the piano is doing. And in this case also the synth. can even see it in here. This is just not lining up with this one or this note here. And that's because there's 4 notes being played with, for example, your percussions and your bass line. And then the rest plays 3 notes in that same time. So that rhythm doesn't match. It's not like, musically speaking, it's not incorrect to do so, but for psytrance in general, we try to create that trance-like feeling, which doesn't really work when you have 2 rhythms, kind of, how should I say, if you have 2 rhythms playing on top of each other that aren't the same rhythm, you don't get that trance-like feeling because part of the rhythm is not matching up with the other part. Now you can hear all of the elements are following or contributing to the same rolling bassline rhythm. So now you get the trance feeling again. Groove clash, yes. Another thing to consider here for this bassline is that the bassline basically has no transient. This is not just the cleanliness in this case. Obviously the cleanliness is an issue, but the other thing is that there's just no like high frequencies in this bass. I know it works for Dark Side, but I don't think it works for this track, not having that transient. Raison landed here on time, I guess. Yes, you did. Welcome, welcome. One of my ex-students. For those that don't know, I do offer private lessons. Since there's like 15 people watching, I might as well plug that as well. Yeah, you can see now the transient of that snare. This is the same snare that you're using as your main snare. Oh, I like this. This is a cool melody. This part works really well. I really like this. As I said before, there's a few other parts where musically it doesn't really make that much sense. This works. The problem that you might run into when you're doing 8 notes like that is that it sounds like the bass line should also be playing 8 notes. So for that last segment, it might be cool to have a few 16-note ghost notes in there. Very low volume, maybe low velocity, just to maintain the 16-note rhythm. Oh, I see what's happening. Do you see the bass line, how it has these kind of gaps in the spectrum? There's some kind of comb filter effect happening here. Either through the processing, maybe too much phasing happening that can lead in certain extreme cases to this comb filter action. But you can see in the frequency gap or in the frequency graph, right? There's gap here, gap there, gap there, gap there. I think that contributes to your bassline being so dark, because it's not like there's no information on here. The information just gets cut in by whatever is causing this comb filtering effect, and you're just losing a lot of the frequencies that do make up this area. Still though, it's fairly low. You could go up to, with your transient, I personally aim to have my highest frequency always be around like 8 to 9K when it comes to the highest frequency that my bass line should touch, because above that is really where the hi-hats come in, and if you go any lower, you have the risk of your bass line not standing out enough from the elements that it competes with, like in the lower parts of your mid-range. right? That's what we're hearing here. That bass line, that rhythm kind of gets muffled by all of the other sounds going on, and that's just because your bass line isn't really fighting for this space up top here. And that click that you're going to get from the very high frequencies help with it standing out more. Okay, let's unpause this. And let's move on to the next track, which is... Wait. Cosmonome with Freedom 5. Raisin, are you going to submit your track as well? Or are you just here listening? Because you did send me a track in private like 2 hours ago. Might as well listen to it here. You get real-time feedback. This is going to be a Captain Hook style kick and bass. Either Captain Hook style or offbeat, I'm guessing. There's the offbeat. Oh. That's strange. It works, technically. It's also clean, which I like. The track is the one I sent you as last link earlier. Can you send it here? So I just have it in order of the queue. If you just drop the link in here, it should be okay. Because then I can just go on with this queue, right? I don't have to look elsewhere for the same track. Yeah, it's not... I got it from obviously the offbeat bass coming in, but also the sound design and the intro really hinted to like a Captain Hook style bass line. Hello, Subject. Subject Ultra. Mr. Bessa, however you want to be called. Also, while you're here, check Discord.
This is where the creation begins.
Well done on the vocal. That's perfect. You just leave the space for the vocal plays, and then you go into the rest. That's how you separate things. The bass line is indeed missing a sub. Or it's playing the high octave all the time. Which, I mean, I guess it works. You still have that kind of punch coming from the kick. It's kind of like your old school Goa style, which works well with the lead. I was just expecting a different track from the intro. Anyone heard any good live sets from Tomorrowland? Not really, no. I haven't spent actual time listening to live sets from Tomorrowland in a long, long time. Also because I have not been interested in that type of music for a while. Makes the kick feel a little bit lonely. It does, but it works in the same kind of way that, for example, Tristan's track Pterodactyl works. Pterodactyl does the same kind of thing with the high octave bass, only it drops, for the last bass note it dropped the octaves again. So it does that kind of octave jump pattern. I wanted to write it out with my hands in the air, but obviously my camera is not working. Can I just get a MIDI track, please? Thank you. This kind of thing, where you go up an octave with the bass line. just very crudely drawn out here. Right, you would have your kick and then you would go up like this. But because this bass note is like low in volume,
We pause
it's
for a moment.
like the kick has this extra space and then the sub comes back in towards the end here. That kind of works. It's almost the same as what you're doing here. You're just keeping it high. And that means that you're relying purely on the kick for that punch. I think you're doing a good job in terms of having enough punch in the kick to be able to pull that off. If you really wanted to, you have the space to get a little bit more. Maybe it's layered it with a low sine wave. No, this is just the bass line playing an octave higher. You can see it because the frequency here and the frequency here, this is an octave. This is a doubling of the frequency, right? So this is at 100 Hertz, this is at roughly 200 Hertz. So this is just the bass line playing an octave higher than it normally plays. I don't mind it. It's like the old school Goa style. And that works with the leads and everything else that you're doing, so to me it works. They usually have an evening of Psy at one of the stages. I heard that Freedom Fighters was playing.
There is no past,
I think.
and that is
You could layer it with a sine if you want to. Yes, if you want to maintain that deep feeling. The issue that I have with that is that at that point, if you want that sub bass in there, I would just lower your normal bass line by an octave. No, Greedo, I don't think that he did
no time. What's you done?
layer it with a sine wave or something like that. I do think that he is using the idea of that sub bass kind of going up and down following the rest of the bass line. Obviously I cannot play it on stream, otherwise I would just let you hear the example and we could analyze it and everything. Try to add more sub to the bass and see what's happening. Yeah, you can consider it. It's always a consideration that you can make. I don't think it's necessary, but you can try it out. If you wanted to get more sub from the track in general, I would just do it from the kick, seeing as the kick is already providing that sub, and you definitely have the space to get a little bit more sub bass out of the kick. Not in terms of length, but in terms of its volume towards the end there. It depends. It's like technically both things are correct, adding more sub to it in the bass or not adding more sub to it in the bass. Both of those are correct choices from a technical perspective. Aesthetically, there's just the difference. Do you want to have a very dark and kind of low sounding bass, or do you want to keep this open feeling that you have now? Yeah, because this is the way that you're doing it now is the traditional Goa way, right? Where the bass line actually plays an octave higher than where the kick kind of lands. And that gives that bouncy groove, right? Where you're dancing to the kick, because you can almost imagine it like the bass line, because it's playing higher, it's lifting you up. So you're going up with the bass, and then when the kick hits, you're dancing to that. You go down again, right? Anyway, we do have one more track, Race On. If anybody else wants to post that track, now is the time to do so. For now, I'm going to play. Man. These track names, you guys. Make something I can pronounce. Like, what is this? Ancon se tu ne. I try. I'm sorry. Let's see. Cool intro idea. I don't get why this is low pass, this vocal. It sounds very muffled when it doesn't have to be. Also, your vocal doesn't line up with the drums. So this sa, that ah sound, that's where the drum should also hit, because that's the emphasis of the vocal. Nice and clean. Love to see that. Your bass transient is very quiet. I don't know if that's by design. The way that you've done this is you've essentially extended the high frequency of your bass. You can even see it in here, right? You have your main click of your transient, and then really the second click that we see here is kind of the real transient of this bass line, right? This part here. I would personally just, if you want a strong transient, just use one click, so you don't get that muffled feeling. Here again, when you're doing vocals on top of a rhythmical idea, you need to line up those vocals with the rhythmical idea. You can even play with the vocal here and just have that pa sound that it says lined up with the beat like 3 times. Dum, bum, 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 bum. You just line that up with the kick and then the rhythms match. Now it feels like I just found this cool vocal, I dropped it in my track, and then that's it. Here the vocal just kind of stops. I don't know if that's... Yeah, it just stops here before you really want it to. Maybe a reverb on top of it. Get a stronger snare for your build-up. That really sounded also like a actual fill that was going into a build or into a drop. Oh, I'm not a fan of this. I'm not a fan of this. I hate fake drops, and you just did 2 of them. Here again, the vocal is playing not on the actual beat. It's sidechained, so you don't really notice it now. Here it's okay, but before in that fill it was, or the build-up it wasn't. Really good job on the kick and bass mixing. Very, very clean kick and bass. Here again, the vocal rhythm doesn't make sense with the kick and bass. The kick and bass is clearly going on the kick. That's where the force should be, right? And that vocal, you can see it here, it kind of comes in late. thing I'll say on your kick and bass is stereo riff. Especially if you're going for this kind of progressive style, stereo riff is really important on your bass line. Like every bass stab should have a different, unique stereo field, and they should all have a stereo field. This is a great example of the kick and bass not lining up with the vocal. That last part was where it stands out the most. I'm sorry, I didn't read the private message actually. Got a new one start to finish, gonna take care of some details though, but I should be stayed simple enough. The track, yes. For those that don't know, this is an ex-student of mine, and he used to have a lot of problems with the simplicity of ideas, in the sense that he would just kind of continue producing until he had enough ideas for 3 tracks, and then decide to, okay, this is going to be 1 track. This track, he did send it to me in private, so this is Resampling. If you want it to be shared with others and have other people look at it, obviously you can post it into my normal feedback session. It doesn't make any sense anymore to push it in the feedback on stream because we already listened to it. But this is Resamplin's track. It's common problems, yeah. The problems that we heard here are very common. The stereo field, because it's hard to, I guess, it's not as obvious as something like the volume being off or the frequencies being off, unless you have like very good experience with what your sound system should sound like and professional tracks on your sound system, then you can hear that kind of thing. But even I, on my speaker system, I've shown it before on the stream, right? My setup. This does not give me enough information to accurately always get the stereo field right. One of the things that I have is, because I have this stereo spread here, it always comes with a stereoscope. So 90% of the sounds that I put in my track, I'll put on stereo spread just as a precaution. And I just look at this graph for a little while, see what it does. What do I want the stereo field to do? Do I want it to be really wide? Do I want it to be slightly wider? And then if it's wide enough, I'll delete it again. But I'll always quickly check, with obviously disabled, what the stereo field is doing. Is it the width that I want it to be? If not, I'll make it more. This is for making something that is mono stereo. You can just widen stuff here if you want to. But something like that is really handy to have, just to check, right? Just to see quickly with a stereoscope. I think a free alternative is the M stereoscope. This is just the scope part, so you don't actually have control over the width. But you can at least have this on your master, and anytime you need to check a sound, just quickly open this up. Even maybe have it open up on a second monitor if you have one, and just look to your track. Look at your elements through this and to see what the stereo field should do for each of the elements. Yeah, the M stereoscope is free. Yes. I think it's part of the free bundle thing that they have. Tom Zool, this is Bad Acid Trip 150 BPM. Let's hope it's not too bad. This was posted by Tomac in the YouTube chat. I feel a dark kick and bass coming up. I'm pretty confident that this is going to be some real dark stuff. A D sharp or something like that. Some arps here, just overall some more interest. Even this atmosphere that you have can open up a little bit in the frequency spectrum that it's using, so that it helps. Yeah, there we have our dark kick and bass. It's nice and clean. This is what a clean kick and bass looks like. Again, for those that don't know, you can see the kick transient, and before it, it's basically silent. Same with this kick, same with this transient. Well done. Elysium, welcome. Overall, your track is lacking a bit in this brightness area here. Currently, not all of the hi-hats are obviously playing, so that's when all of the hi-hats start to play, you're gonna get that more, hopefully. Still, yeah, I still would argue that it should have a bit more high-end. And for your open hi-hat, I would choose a different sample. Is the bass too loud? I don't know if I agree. If this is a master track, then it should be okay. I usually go, what happens is I mix my kick and bass so that my bass like peaks 1 dB or 1.5 dB below my kick. But that tends to be partially undone when I go into mastering. So this is the point where you decide we have this acid line coming in. I would drop all of the atmospheres, drop all of the other sequences, maybe have 1 or 2 more one shots on top, and really that's it, so that that acid line can really come through. Here you have a new lead, you can do the same here. You can have the acid line and the lead if you want to. It's gonna be a bit harder mixing those two together and having them both loud, obviously. But you can step back the acid lead a little bit in this section and then have that other lead kind of come out from it. I don't know if I like that low pass right there. It doesn't make a lot of sense to me if you're going back into like a build-up. Because the low pass signifies to me that a breakdown is coming. We're losing energy. See if I can catch that other thing. I'm hoping that there's another 16-note kick roll somewhere. This part is really cool though. Yeah, here it's a little bit hard to see in this part, but here you can see you clean up your kick and bass normally, right? Look at the difference between this. You can see the post ringing here, this is flat, and this is being pushed up. Right, you can see the whoosh. The same here, this is kind of going down, and this is being pushed up. That's this oscillation kind of continuing. So when you're doing a kick roll, I would do kick rolls in audio. So you can fade it out, right? And you can still have all of those transients come through. Just make sure that all of your kicks are on one track, make sure that they don't overlap and that there's a little fade between them when you're doing kick rolls. I like the mix here, this is really clean. Apart from the kind of missing sparkle in the high end. I would say that this section and the section before this one are basically perfect. Nice use of the stereo field. Clean kick and bass, what more do you want? Sounds like he knows what he's doing. Very much sounds like that, yes. So at this point, the energy level in the track is kind of slowing down. I would reflect that in the drums. I would, yes, like you're doing here, I would choose to have no offbeat open hat in the last section, the section before this one. My last two tracks I have a 6-month break before. It's good stuff. I like it. Again, final tip that I'll give to any producer, when it comes to an outro like that, I don't mind the kind of like outro part that you have in there. But if since we have so many delay tails in Psytrance, you kind of cut off those delay tails so they don't really resolve. The idea would be that at the end here, even if you have that like little part where it's just the hats and that one synth, you would still leave like 4 bars, maybe even 8 bars to have those sounds kind of ring out over time, that delay sound. It's like I'm Alice falling down the rabbit hole. It was a very good track, yes, very much. Next up we have Arnold T, or Elysium, with Artificial Awakening in A, 146 BPM. in there, it speeds up the fill. Here you want the fill to slow down, so this is a fill that I would say, yeah, does exactly what you wanted to do. But if you wanted to speed up your track, you know, take the energy level higher, then a drum fill or even a kick fill or something like that helps so much more by maintaining that energy. You lose a lot of the energy when the kick and bass goes out, and that has to happen for a fill, otherwise it isn't a fill. So that does have to happen. Sorry, let me pause this, otherwise we have autoplay. But keeping a little bit of a drum fill in there to maintain that energy can really help to, you know, maintain it throughout that little part of the fill. Right panism. It's the new meta, yes. Okay, I've been working on the mix of this one and intend to hire someone to master it soon. Would love some feedback. I know just the guy for you, my dude, that needs to master your track. Let's see. I'll tell you in a little bit if he would be down to master your track. I can tell for him because I am him. I just smiled at the camera, not realizing it's off. Getting crazy with the pitching there. Pretty cool. Another nice vocal mix. It's so simple as leaving space, right? Just not putting stuff up there. Now you can already hear that the vocal is starting to fall behind. I'm kind of okay with that because it's repeating something that has already said. So it's not adding to the story there. Oh, that's strange. I didn't expect this kick and bass. I'm gonna be honest with you. Cleanliness. Here, as you can see, your transient is getting affected. Also, the bass is a bit loud for the kick. I wasn't expecting Captain Hook style bass lines. I don't know if I'm a fan of that big pluck every bar. One, because it's very mono, and I feel like it takes away some of the power of that kick that's playing alongside with it.
I'll set us free from ones and zeros.
Are you by chance using Echo Boy Jr. for your delay there? Oh, by the way, this track is called Equalix by Machines Revolution. I didn't say that, but I'm using Valhalla delay mostly. I figured that it was the Echo Boy delay because the delay hit sounds very stereo, whereas the original hit is completely mono. And that's something that you can do in Echo Boy Jr. I like the melodic part. Here I would say the kick and bass itself is not mixed loud enough. I think it should get like another 2 dB.
0.
Especially like the higher frequencies of the bass line. Because the bass line is providing some melodic part in here. Right? It's following the chords. But that tonality doesn't really come out yet. Stereo field of that plug in the beginning. It's weird more mono and it's weird more stereo. It's, I think part of the reason is because that delay is a lot more stereo than the original or the dry sound, right? It is, yeah, this is pretty much progressive side. But with a very unique flavor and still a lot of characteristics of kind of the more rave type psytrance. Mono Techno, welcome, welcome. But yeah, Mr. Victor, if you are looking for somebody professional to help you out with the master or the mix and master, I am available. And I will be launching my services very, very soon. Obviously, I'm already accepting clients so that I already have a little bit of a repertoire. So that I should say, like, have a portfolio. But if you're interested in that, if you want my help mixing and mastering this track for you, I can do so. Feel free to write me in private. I'm not yet promoting it that much, but anytime somebody actively mentions that they're looking for people to work on their track, then obviously I do have to say something. Here again, the kick and bass I feel like is just lacking a bit. Right, the power, I think it's the volume as well. They could have, as I said, 2 dB, 1.5 maybe, something like that. Oh, I think I know what it is. It's part of the reason is the transient of your bass line is almost non-existent. I think I mentioned before, like your mid-range frequencies that add the tonality to your bass, but also we can see here that there's no transient for your bass line. So it doesn't provide that rhythm as well. Yeah, your bass line doesn't go above like 2K, 3K. Wait, what's happening here? Ah, you have the glide and the rolling. You have to be really careful with that when it comes to the cleanliness of your kick and bass. The ending is messed up. Well, it can work. You can definitely do that. The gliding kick and bass. In fact, or mixing the gliding kick and bass and the rolling kick and bass. In fact, I want to show another track. One of the productions that we have been working on a lot on stream actually has that as its second drop idea. This. Don't mind the naming. I'm very bad at naming tracks. I only name them when I'm actually finished with them. But this track here, its progressive drop is also like a glide bass. It glides in a little bit later and it leaves a bit more space. But then what you'll see is that at some point there's just this little bit of a transient here. And it should also be here, I think. Either here or here. Here. So there's two rolling bass notes in there. And I'm effectively making space in the sliding kick and bass for those rolling kick and bass notes to play in there. You have a few more rolling notes in there, but it's the same idea. also an offbeat bass in here, actually. But that's also part of the gliding patch. But yeah, that's the idea. I exported it fast for the stream. No worries, no worries. I don't think it's strange. I like the ideas that you can get by combining different bassline types. As I said here, this is really cool stuff to me. I just don't do it in the first and the last because I am a purist and I do like my rolling kick and bass as well. Having my first day of work tomorrow. Your first day off or your first day that you're working? Because there's a big difference there. I hope it's the first one for you, that you have a little bit of freedom. Or maybe you're excited for the job. In that case, I hope it's the second. Anyway, next up it's Klaus, who came through with a 301 BPM track. Called, very, very creatively, 301 BPM. As you can see here. So this is going to be either very good or very bad. Thanks for the feedback. You're welcome, bro. Oh, let me... No. I refuse. What the fuck is this? I'll listen to it just for the memes. But I won't take this seriously. My analyzer isn't keeping up. Look at it. It's just jiggling back and forth. I'm gonna go out here and say that this is too fast. You did indeed break my analyzer, yes. It was not designed for tracks played at a BPM of 301. I do like the idea. It's like if high-tech got sped up, right? And actually the kind of slow ARP and the slow stuff that you're putting on top of it. Are you half-timing the drum loop on top? Yeah, the drum loop on top is half-time in comparison to the kick and bass. It was to be... yeah, I know, I understand that the whole idea was to make a quick, very fast track. Obviously, I'm not going to comment on like the cleanliness of the kick and bass and stuff like that and take this seriously. I do really like that somebody is able to make something like this in the time that it took to discuss this kind of thing. When did we talk about the BPM? Oh, it was a little bit early. I don't have the chat history anymore. But basically at the beginning of the stream, for those that weren't there, we had somebody submit... We had two people submit a 180 BPM track, and then somebody one-upped them with a 200 BPM track. And then Klaus was like, I have to be better than all of you. And he made this. Anyway, now we have a new track I made in FL Studio by Moto Techno, otherwise known as Jointler. Really cool name. At least living up to the techno part of your name already. Oh yeah, and the track is called Acid. Because of course it is. Nice rumble. make sure that you resample it when you're actually going to finish the track. Resampling in FL must be terrible. It's a bit slow, yes, I do agree. It's not in the 300 BPM. How do you resample in FL? Isn't it using Edison? You have to record it in Edison and then export it back into the playlist as a sample from there? I started FL like 2 weeks ago. I used to use FL for like 4 years, but it's been 6-7 years since I switched to Ableton, so I literally don't remember anything. I still have the demo for that one video that I made on DAWs for the beginners Psytrance series. And yes, I'm still working on part 3, that's a long-term project. But I haven't used FL in any capacity for like 6-7 years. Again, the idea with a lot of rave tracks, so techno, psytrance, even some stronger forms of house, the tracks that are predominantly drop, what you'll find is that these frequencies here have a little bit of a bulge. You have it with your open hat thing, but your closed hat should be a bit more piercing. I know it goes against kind of the standard mixing tip of your spectrum should roll off, but specifically for things like techno and psytrance and stuff like that, it's rolling up until like 7-8K, and then there's just a little bump here. Fun fact is, I was in the other room and it sounded like someone was slamming a hammer in my living room. Then you know it's good techno, if that's the case. If your track sounds like a construction site, you're doing it right. That rhymes. You can use that as a way to memorize. Kick definitely stamps, yes. Very strong, very well done with the kick. This synth feels a little bit basic. If you want this to be more techno, I would put a very strong phaser on it. To just get that slow modulation going. Kind of thing. Second drop isn't all that energetic. Yes, I agree here. This is a bit calm for main synth. Do you like my phaser impression? That's basically what the phaser is, right?
Acid.
I think this synth may be a bit on the loud side. I cannot really check the waveform anymore because I don't really know what it's supposed to look like for techno. I do feel like the kick transient, as I said before, should have a bit more space, so the resampling should definitely help. Just like techno is supposed to be. It's always the same.
Acid.
The thing that people say for every genre when they're not interested in that music genre. Like I had a nephew once, an older nephew. When I was like 14, I used to listen to a lot of metal. And we talked about music one time, and he was like, oh, I listen to this rap, you can definitely hear all of the differences. And I was just like, well, it's always a guy talking. And then I was like, you should listen to metal, listen to all of the differences in metal. And he is just like, oh, it's just distorted guitars and drums. If you simplify a track down like that, for anything, you can basically say, oh, it's all the same. Even psytrance. If you're not into psytrance, I can imagine that everybody's just going to say, oh, it's a kick drum, a rolling bass line, and an acid line on top. Which, I mean, summarizes psytrance in a very, very simple way, but it applies to most tracks. Right? You have a kick, you have a bass, and you have some kind of resonant sound design on top. It's the intricacies that you only get when you listen to a genre repeatedly that actually allow you to make those distinctions. Is that the right word? I don't know. Anyway, this is Spacebugs by Sonic Flux. With very cool cover art. Patterns is all the same. Yes. That's why nobody cleans their kick and bass, because it's all the same. Once one person starts to not clean their kick and bass, it's all of them. Ooh, this actually has visuals. I don't know what to show now. Like, somebody put a lot of effort into making this, and I'm just showing the analyzers. I would quickly like to point out that you didn't clean your kick and bass. As I said before. Ah, that's a mid-journey thing. That is really cool though. I've never seen the mid-journey used like this. I've only really seen that kind of morphing thing. Which I guess this is also morphing, but in a different way. It's not changing, it's just kind of like filling in the details. I'll show this. This is better. Right, it's like constantly zooming in and then filling in the details. It goes a little bit wonky towards the sides here. I like also that it lines up with the kick. Like somehow it's BPM sync. Clean your kick and bass and room, young man. Your mother just comes in. Did we clean our kick and bass today? Yeah, it looks really cool. Because it's not your standard mid-journey effect. There's definitely something strange going on, so it's really well done. Son, are you squelching? Son, are you doing acid? Please let it be the drug, not the sound. I saw you talking to your friends about acid. Please just take the drug, don't do the sound. quickly show the analyzers again as well if there is something interesting to talk about. I'm getting distracted by the visuals. Nice visuals are in new YouTube channel Nexus 604. Yeah, that's the kind of like AI morph that I'm familiar with. Tomac. Which is slightly different from what's happening here. Right, this is like zooming in, it's not morphing and kind of gliding. This is kind of, for those that don't know, your kind of standard visual, right? Where everything changes really fast and some things kind of consistently move around. It's not the same thing, but I do like this effect that you have here. Because everybody else does the stuff that Nexus does. I should be listening to the track, but I am indeed getting too distracted again. Oh, I just clicked out of the track. Sorry. I'm a good DJ, let's get back where we were, roughly there. It's because it's a YouTube link, and I assume that all of my YouTube stuff is like live stream stuff that I can close. Because normally it's like SoundCloud stuff, right? The links that you guys send me. It's indeed, yes, a very detailed track. I do like it. Definitely had that vibe in there. So this is a phase where you're introducing a new element, like and you have that very strong kind of like fill idea where you're low passing and then coming back up. What I would personally do is then strip out all of the old elements that were in the section before it. Yeah, glyph it's the same thing for me. It becomes a little bit boring after a while because it's the same sounds over and over again. Even though they're very, very cool sounds, you just get bored of them after a while. Right here you have that kind of cool squelch that was playing. Maybe turn that into a sequence and then just have that sequence play more up front. Right, this thing. Yeah, like you're doing now, and then just removing all of the atmospheres and the backing stuff that you have kind of in the whole track. Cool stuff though. I like it. And again, the visuals were very, very nice. We have one more track. I am going to close the submissions after this one. The next track is Matthews Z28011 in Discord, also known as Better Message, with a track name I'm not even going to try to pronounce. I know Forest Monk is typing, but this will be the final track that we'll listen to. I'm sorry, Forest Monk. Next Sunday will be the... I wanted to show the track name. I'm not going to try to pronounce this. Nice. It's not very loud. Psytrance usually is very loud. That would be the first thing. Sound design is really good for first track. So this is a first track, keep that in mind. I should have said that. Kick is clean-ish. I don't think you took it into account, also because I can see here a lot of bass. This isn't properly lined up, I think. Maybe this is lined up, because this also goes up here, so this would kind of work with that. But also this transient here is messed up, and this transient here is messed up. So something to look for in your next track is kick and bass cleaning. And the overall levels of elements. Like your kick and bass can be, I would say the whole track could be louder. But your kick and bass should have impact when it comes to like the fills, right? We just had a fill that was equally loud as the kick and bass. By the way, Force Monk, if you're still on the stream, I saw you were typing in feedback on stream, but if you want feedback from me still after the stream, you guys can always post in the normal feedback section right here, and then either I or somebody else will always react to it. Sometimes I just go through and listen to like 4 or 5 tracks at once and just write for an evening. Sound design is really good. Also the placement of the atmospheres behind your main sounds. I do like the balance in this part here. As I said before, there's a bit of a strange thing happening with some of the volumes of the fills, one that I noticed earlier. But this is really well done. Also proper use of the stereo field, we like. Overall, the track can be a bit brighter. It's a bit dull here. You can see, right, it's kind of just choop. And then this is lower. It does have that kind of hump that you expect from your hi-hats. It's just like the whole track goes down here. So this should kind of stay like this, and then the hump should be on top. Not that high, but just a little thing. The camera did cool down, but I took off my shirt, so I'm not showing you guys again. I don't post that stuff for free. You would have to pay me. At some point in my career, either I convert my Patreon into something like that, or I started OnlyFans. Yes, OnlyFans. This is really good for first sidetrack. This is really well done. Even some sound design methods that I think like are more experienced, like that atonal stuff that you're doing here. Really cool. Take a picture of you and use it as a cover for the track. Again, not for free. If you want to see me naked, you're gonna have to pay. That's the rule. I'm perfectly willing to do it, but not for free. I hope my career never gets to that point, guys. I don't even know what I would do on OnlyFans. It's not like I have good feet or something like that. I bite the nails on my hands, so I can't use that. This is a very weird comment section for real. That's what happens when you put a bunch of producers next to each other. I was working on this track for 1 year, last year started from total zero knowledge on music production. It's crazy, yeah. The fact that you can make this, I know it takes a year and then obviously there's a lot of tweaking to get it to this point. With all of the sound design. What I would recommend if you're serious about music production is don't spend like a year on one track. It's much better when you're gathering knowledge to quickly kind of rush tracks and to quickly get ideas so that you get to the end point, right? At the end, you're gonna do mixing. Now you've learned mixing once, a track, right? Getting all of the elements in balance, and you've done well. It's not that it's wrong or something like that, but you do learn by repetition, and something like mixing and mastering, apart from the fact that this isn't mastered, overall I would say quickly producing tracks is the best way to learn, right? When I was starting, I would spend like a day on a track or 2 days, and then I would move on to the next idea. I wouldn't recommend that. That's maybe a little bit too little, especially for sidelands, because it tends to be a more complex production stage. You know, all of the crazy sound design that you have to do. Back when I started, it was big room. You import a kick drum, you find a preset for a lead that you like. 3-hour challenge is a great way to learn quick production. Yes, I should do more challenges again. I should do more challenges. There's going to be more challenge streams. Once I'm settled in my new apartment, I'll promise I'll do more. Unmastered, yeah, okay. I'll give you a follow. That's great stuff. This was Better Message, which was also the final track of the stream. So that means that it's going to be it. I would wave at you guys, but again, I'm naked, so I cannot show myself now. This is going to be it for the stream. Video came out today. There's going to be more videos out next week. You guys already saw it. We have 3 more videos coming up. One on the 8th, one on the 10th, and one on the 13th. And yeah, that's going to be it. No further announcements. I hope you guys enjoyed the stream. I hope all of the feedback has been helpful. And we'll see each other next time, hopefully with a camera that just works. Oh, wait. $4 tip for thanks for feedbacks. So that's Silith. That is underground music production, right? He had Psychedelic Underground Records in chat. He just donated $4. Thank you very, very much. I highly appreciate that, obviously. Maybe Psytrance requires to get naked. I mean, that's why I'm naked, right? That's why I do it. It's for you guys. It's so that I can absorb all of the Psytrance. Okay, that's enough. This was a weird stream. Technical issues aside, next time hopefully we have the camera again. And I'll see you guys in the next stream.